Hello, so in this video I'm going to explain something that learner drivers really struggle to understand. I've taught over 1,000 people to drive and no one, not a single one of them, has ever understood this. That includes hundreds of people that have come to me from other driving schools and they just don't get it. So what is it that people don't understand? It's all to do with why you leave your car parked in gear. So for the moment, you'll notice my handbrake is on and I'm in gear 1. And this is what always happens at the start of a lesson. Where people get in the car and they go to turn on and I'll say, what do you need to remember? It's important that I never ever say to someone, what have you forgotten? Otherwise you'll make them forget it more and more, which I know from my work as a hypnotist. If you want someone to forget something, you keep saying, what have you forgotten? What have you forgotten? Anyway, I'll say, what do you need to remember? And they say, I've done my seat belt's on, the mirrors are in the right place, and I say the gear, and they say, but we're already in 1, and I say, oh, you need neutral to turn on. So they turn on, and then they're trying to move off in neutral, and I say, you need to go to first, and they quite rightly say, well, you just told me to come out of first, so why do I need to go back in? No one ever understands this thing about leaving your car parked in gear, so let me explain this. At the moment, the only thing holding the car still is the handbrake, or to give it its proper name, parking brake. This works on the back 2 wheels of the car. Now the thing is, if this was to fail, which can happen, and I'll tell you a story about that in a moment, if this fails, there is nothing holding your car still. So I'm going to check around. There's no one around here, it's a really quiet road. So imagine the car's parked and the handbrake fails. Your car's going to go flying backwards and your car will be smashed to bits. That happened to me back in 2008. I was sitting at the bottom of a hill on Windsor Road in Sturchley, South Birmingham, and I was talking to the people about doing a lesson. And we looked in the mirror and this car was coming down the road towards us in a really weird way. It was kind of going right, left, right. It looked like the driver was drunk. And I said to the people, surely they've seen us, haven't they? They were heading straight for us. Smash! The car went straight through the back of mine. So I got out of the car to go up to the driver and say, what are you doing? There was no driver in the car. It was just an old car and I left the handbrake on, but it had failed and it had come rolling down the hill and smashed into the back of my car. And thankfully the first house at the door of the first house I knocked on was the owner of the car. I got lucky, I just guessed. And he said, oh, sorry. He said, oh, your car's brand new as well. Anyway, the moral of that story is your handbrake can fail. Don't just think, oh, that won't happen. I've had it happen to me and the car was smashed to bits. So, to avoid that problem where your handbrake might fail, you leave your car parked in first gear. Now I'm going to check around again and watch what happens this time if my handbrake fails. The car's held still by the gear. Now it went back a tiny bit, but it stopped. It only went back, a few millimetres. That's the gear. I'm not on the pedals. That's the gear holding the car still. So that is why you leave your car parked in gear. Now to be technically precise, you should leave in first gear to stop your car rolling backwards, and reverse gear to stop your car rolling forwards. But I've always found that in every car I've ever had, first gear has worked, whether you're uphill or downhill, so I leave mine parked in first. So if being in first gear has stopped the car from rolling away. The other benefit is, and this might sound a bit funny, but it does happen. I've never had this happen to me, but it could happen. The gear locks the front 2 wheels in this car and in most cars. Now it has been known for criminals to steal cars by lifting them up at the back and simply towing them away. If you are in gear, it's much harder to do that because your front wheels are locked. So if somebody tries to tow your car away, then it's going to be much harder. They'll be dragging it down the road with the tyres squealing, which will attract unwanted attention. You won't stop the police because they'll come along with a crane and pick your car up. But yeah, it stops some criminals from towing your car away. So that's why you should leave your car parked in gear in the first place. So That's the reason for it. We're in handbrake. I've got a handbrake on in first gear. Your car is not going to roll away by mistake. But here's where the confusion comes in. If you turn the car on in gear, you'll go jumping forwards. Now, I had this happen to a friend of mine many years ago, over 24 years ago, when one of my friends had just passed his driving test. He was so excited, jumped in the car, left it in gear, turned the car on, drove straight through the living room of his parents' house. Because when the car's in gear and you turn on, you'll jump, and sometimes instead of stalling, the car will actually keep going and just drive straight through your house. It happens quite often. It's also common that people are walking in front of the car, people turn the engine on, and people have been known to have their legs crushed between cars. So you mustn't turn on in gear. You must take it out of gear. So I've gone clutch down, neutral. Now I can turn on. So the point is, you leave your car parked in first, so it may be reversed, but I'm going to use first for this video. If I turn on in first gear, the car can lurch forward violently and stall, and either go into an object or cause damage or hurt someone. So that's why you leave it parked in gear, but as soon as you get in the car to drive it, you take it out of gear, turn it on, and it won't jump then because you're not in gear. Then you go back into one, and then you get ready to drive. So can you turn the car on in gear safely? Well, yes, you can in a way. In this car, this is a push button start. If I push the button now, it won't turn on. This car will not turn on unless you hold the clutch down, and many cars do that now, even ones with keys can do that. So you see, if I'm in gear, I'm made to hold the clutch down. Now it will turn on. Now I am in gear, not good practice, but the clutch is down, so it won't go flying forwards. That's a safety measure. The problem is, if you forget that, then this is what happens. Bang! Now there's a handbrake holding the car still, and the car's beeping saying, "What are you doing, you idiot?" Okay, so that's why you don't turn on in gear. So you leave your car parked in gear to stop it rolling, but if you turn on in gear, you can get that violent lunge. So you go out of gear, turn your car on, and now I can lift my foot as fast as I want. Won't stall because it's not in gear. So that is why you leave your car parked in gear. And I'll check around again. There's no one around at all, so I'm going to take the handbrake off. Your car's rolling back. No good. Your car's going to end up going down the road and crashing. If I leave it in first gear though, and the handbrake fails, doesn't move. So you leave your car parked in gear, but don't turn it on in gear. I know it seems to be pointless taking it out to put it back in, but you take it out, turn it on, then put it back in, so you know for sure that when you turn on, it's safe to do so. There is actually a box on the marking sheet of the driving test, and it's called precautions, and this is partly what it means by that. You've got to check handbrake, take it into neutral, and then turn on. Do please let me know if you've been taught this about leaving your car parked in gear, because I can say no one has ever understood this. I've had people who have had 10, 12, 15, whatever lessons, and I'm still explaining this over and over, and they find it really hard to understand, because I think, well, why not just leave it parked in neutral? Because your car could roll away. But if you turn on in one, you could go flying. So that's why you do it. But in all the times I've ever had pupils come to me, and I've taught hundreds of pupils from other instructors, not one ever, and I'm not just saying that, not a single person in 20 years of teaching has ever been taught that about leaving the car in gear and then taking it out. So please let me know if you were taught that and if that all makes sense. Check out these other videos on the screen now for more help with your driving. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you again soon for more videos.